All right, all right. Good morning, everybody. How's everybody doing on a Monday morning, September 9th? Welcome on back, 6 in the a.m., 6 in the morning. Glad to be with you on a Monday. Hope you all had a great weekend. Wherever you're watching, I appreciate it. Make sure you smash the like button, hit the thumbs up, or whatever platform you're on. Subscribe to the channel. Good to be here on a Monday. What a week. Debate night week. Tomorrow night. Morning, Sean on Facebook, Elaine on YouTube, Nancy on Facebook, Tina on YouTube, P1 Firefighter on YouTube. Good morning, everybody. Gary Bishop, good morning. Della, Margaret, everybody, welcome on in. Debate week, tomorrow night. What a night it's going to be. Boy, oh boy. You know, I feel like we've been kind of on it. A lot of what I saw this weekend in the limited time I had to look at politics, I try to stay away from it a little bit on the weekends if I can. Family stuff. Son had basketball, volleyball tournaments and games and matches that were exciting to go to, get your mind off all this nonsense. But it's going to be an interesting night. We've been on it a couple weeks now. I think it was really hit home to some degree. And again, we don't trust polls. We know that. We've talked about these polls. But I think the New York Times Siena deal really sent people going, what? What's going on? And we've been talking about it on the show that any bounce that Kamala had was before the DNC, not after. And I think what you're starting to see now is that the data come out, even though we know the data is still skewed. Good morning, everybody. Frederick Leathers, good morning. Probably extra work. Will you be doing this on Rumble? We're not on Rumble right now. I'll have to look into that. I'm not sure. I know we added Facebook back this morning, so we should be YouTube, X, Facebook. I thought we were on Rumble, but I'll look into that. But I think the data is now starting to show what we've been talking about, that any bounce that she had really happened before the DNC. And the more time voters have, even on their side, to remember why she never polled higher than skim milk and never made it to Iowa, is now confirmed in this New York Times Siena poll that was out yesterday. This Josh Krauscher, I guess his name, had this breakdown of this poll taken between September 3rd and September 6th, which showed an overall win for President Trump, 48% to 47%. So just think about the fact that the New York Times Siena poll has it 48-47. Just imagine what the real numbers are. If they've got it, so they have to put it out at 48-47. New York Times Siena poll. So any bounce she had is totally gone at this point. And if you look at what this guy in the Times wrote, he said the Harris bounce is blown. With the poll, he said, as the responses were largely unchanged from the Times Siena poll taken in late July, just after President Biden dropped his re-election bid. Trump 48, Harris 47. And I guess the actual question was, if the 2024 presidential election were held today, who would you vote for if the candidates were Kamala Harris and Donald Trump? And it's among likely voters. And they got 48-47. So just imagine what the real numbers are. If this wasn't skewed, as it most likely is, towards Democrats, whether it's how many, the numbers and who they polled. And several of the poll's key questions outlined where the DNC, which relied heavily on just attacking Trump, of course, contrasted with the quote-unquote joy that we all heard about for 4 days at the DNC convention. And basically, again, Harris and Tim Walz, I know this is going to be shocking to people, are not carrying that energy, whatever energy they did have before the convention. They have not carried it out of the convention. A number of those polls indicated that they might consider Harris, but wanted to know more about her. Well, you do one. I mean, the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys has done more interviews in the last 8 weeks than Kamala Harris has. So if our football coaches, college, any profession, really any coach on any level of sport has done more interviews with the press and how to take questions that they didn't want to answer, especially if they lost that week, than Kamala Harris has done. And she wants to be the leader of the free world. So we demand more of our coaches than we do of our presidential candidates if you're the mainstream media at this point. So a number of those polls indicated they might consider her, but they want to know more about her. Well, good luck with that. Well, good luck with that. Particularly her policy positions. Well, you don't say. Really? You don't know her policy positions? Well, that's shocking. Bernie Sanders said on Sunday on Meet the Depressed that she's not changing her policy position. She's just being pragmatic so she can win. In other words, she's lying to you to try to win and then show, it's the old Nancy Pelosi. You have to pass it to see what's in it deal. A number of those said they want to know more about her, particularly policy positions, before they're willing to commit to casting a vote for her. Well, you're going to be waiting a long time. You're going to be waiting a long time. Also from the article, the new poll underscores the risks and potential rewards, particularly facing Ms. Harris on Tuesday night, when she and Mr. Trump will face off on ABC News. The survey found that 28% of likely voters said they felt they needed to know more about Ms. Harris, while only 9% said they needed to know more about Mr. Trump. These voters, when taken with the 5% of voters who said they are undecided or did not lean towards either major party candidate, paint a portrait of an electorate that could be more fluid than it seems. Oh, yes, it could. Yes, it could. And she could be in worse position than it seems as well, possibly. 5%, according to the poll, are still undecided. 2/3 of those said they wanted to know more about Ms. Harris's policies before casting a vote. The poll also indicated that Harris's apparent push to drive voters to view her as a change candidate and to put distance between her campaign and the policies implemented by the Biden-Harris administration was not going as well as she might like. I mean, it seems like somewhat of an impossible task. When you're hitched to somebody's hip for 3.5 years, and we know that you're all in on those policies, if not worse. We know you've been all in on hiding how dementia-riddled he's been for 3.5 years, while we've all just seen it plainly in front of our face. This is somewhat the result of that. You're not going to untie yourself to him, especially when you've been a candidate before. You've been an AG. You've been a senator. We've seen you. We have tape. We've seen you in these hearings. We know what you support. You're not going to just all of a sudden say, hey, I'm for building a wall, and people are going to go, well, maybe some people will, but most people are not going to believe you. So you can try to change the spots on your skin, but that, it's not going to work. If November is about change, the article says, Ms. Harris will need to make the case that she could deliver that. More than 60% of likely voters said the next president should represent a major change from Mr. Biden. But only 25% said the vice president represented that change, while 53% said Mr. Trump did. I mean, you can't get caught up in these 53%, 23%. I mean, none of these numbers. Who knows where the numbers are? If only 23% said that they don't think she represents change, I mean, you should times that by 3 and then add 25 to get to 100. I mean, there's nobody that should think that she represents any difference, unless it's for the worse, from Biden. Further complicating that particular issue is the fact that less than 1/3 of those polls believe the country's moving in the right direction. Well, I mean, how could you possibly think the country's moving in the right direction? Attempts by Harrison Walz to paint Trump and his running mate J.D. Vance as extreme and weird also, according to this poll, have appeared to fallen flat. As the poll indicated that only 32% view Trump as too conservative. Contrast that with 47% who see Harris as too liberal. Poses yet another hurdle for Harris to clear in the Tuesday debate. No surprise here. The vice president's strongest issue, according to the poll, of course, is what? Everybody's screaming from the rooftops: abortion, abortion, abortion. But even that may have her on shaky ground, despite her repeated insistence to the contrary. 16% of Democrats and almost half the independents polled do not believe that Trump would move to enact a federal law restricting abortions. Oh, I wonder where they got that idea. Maybe because he said it 50 times? So this New York Times Siena poll has everybody up in arms, and I don't think it's that much of a surprise. I mean, I guess it's a surprise that they printed it, and I still think it's skewed. I don't think those are the real numbers. Again, imagine where the real numbers are if that's what they're printing. Frederick Leather says the whole push is to say, if you like Trump's policies but hate Trump, vote Harris. Well, I mean, I'm not sure how that makes sense to anybody if that's what you think. But I mean, if you like Trump's policies, vote Harris because you don't like the man. I mean, I'm sure there's been a lot of presidents that people didn't like, but we're not looking to cast the king of the prom here. Morning, everybody. Welcome on in. Thanks for being here. Let's check on the markets. Markets this morning are trying to rebound. Looks like the pre-market. Market's going to open in about 20 minutes here. Dow futures up 282. S&P futures up 36, NASDAQ futures up 144, so everything pointing to about a 1% to the upside open right now. If it holds, oil at 68.18, the 10 years at 373. Gold's up a little bit this morning to 25.29. Wow. We were talking about gold on the show, I don't know, probably a year and a half ago. We were looking at the chart. It was like $1,700, $25.29. Crypto, Bitcoin trying to make a move to the upside, 55,278, up about 903. Ethereum pretty stagnant, 2,300, up 36. XRP unchanged. It's been about 5 years unchanged. Litecoin, why anybody cares, is beyond me. Bitcoin Cash as well. I guess Bitcoin Cash a little better than Litecoin and XRP, but yeah. So there's your markets. We'll keep an eye if the market opens. Dow futures jump more than 250 as market rebounds from worst week of the year. And again, September's never been a great month for either crypto or stocks. And I don't suppose. I mean, you get some bounces. Obviously, it looks like we may get one this morning, but I don't know if any of them are sustainable as we head into the middle of the month and the first rate cut. And it usually, if you look at history, after the rate cut, things usually bleed for a little bit. Because people are trying to figure out, are we cutting rates because we're too late? Are things broken? So we'll see. People still debating whether it's a 25 or 50 basis point rate cut. Jumbo 50 basis point Fed rate cut should not raise alarm. Oh, I think it absolutely would raise alarm if they were to cut by 50, especially after the jobs and unemployment we got last week. Jobs missed, but unemployment ticked down. It would be hard to argue on the surface that a 50 basis point rate cut would be needed unless something is really wrong that we don't know about yet. U.S. Federal Reserve can afford to make a jumbo 50 basis point rate cut without spooking the markets, according to the CEO of Destination Wealth Management. A deeper cut would demonstrate that the central bank is ready to act without signaling deeper concerns. I mean, wouldn't a 50 basis point rate cut in itself signal deeper concerns? I mean, there's people trying to make the case that given the unemployment rate ticking down, that there's no cuts needed. This guy says, I would not be surprised if they jumped all the way to a 50 basis point cut. That would be considered, on one hand, a very positive sign the Fed is doing what is needed to support jobs growth. Yeah, but again, the jobs number missed by a little, but the unemployment rate ticked down, we're told. I think the Fed at this point is ready to get out ahead of this. I mean, I'd be shocked if they cut 50. I'd be shocked if they cut 50 myself. So anyways, there's your markets, what we're looking like this morning. We'll check back on them before we wrap. But yeah, the New York Times Siena poll, what's everybody think? I mean, not surprised, right? I would think, not surprised. And I'll tell you what I'm seeing a lot of this morning. Saw it in the Gateway Pundit. Kash Patel wrote about it. We've discussed it. How desperate do they get if what they're seeing in their internal polling and they're seeing the New York Times Siena poll? Kash Patel says, what's one of the last things they can maybe try? Of course, they've tried jailing Trump. All the things they've tried. What's left to do if the numbers internally, and let's just say, although as much as I would like to say, I don't know that she'll bomb tomorrow night. I think going in with the idea that she's going to bomb is probably somewhat misguided, because I think they're spending a lot of time trying to program her into just very specific. I mean, you talk about when you were back in high school or college days and you were cramming for the test. I mean, they've got to be cramming to a degree of just trying to get some policy positions in her mind that she can just respout out to the microphone. I would think the cramming that's going on for her for tomorrow night has got to be intense. But to go into thinking that she's going to pull a Biden, obviously, I just don't think that's probably misguided. And I think for Trump, it's, how do you get her to engage where she gets uncomfortable? And I think I gave some credit to Dana Bash and Tapper in the first one. I thought they didn't at least get in the way. On ABC, I mean, listen, the moderators know their job is to get her across the finish line, and that's what they'll try to do. I don't suspect, when we can go through some of the questions that we'd like to hear asked, I don't think any of them will be asked. But where does Trump talk to her directly, I think might be one of the key things. Like, how does he, when he's given time, and of course, before he's done, then they'll shut his mic off, as they will for her. How does he talk to her directly? And will he make an effort to, at the end of his time and whatever he's saying, pose a question to her himself before the moderators go to her? And then she'll either have to make the choice to ignore it or just look at the moderators and ask whatever lame question they're asking. I don't know another way. I just think she's going to be so programmed that it could just end up, this whole thing could just end up being a snorer, snooze fest if Trump doesn't try to maybe question her himself, or at least pose some question on these issues and ask her directly. I don't know that she'll answer any of them. And I'm sure the moderators will jump to her defense and say, we'll ask the questions here, or something like that. But I just think other than that, I mean, I don't know what do you guys think? How does he get her to, how do we Tulsi Gabbard her on the stage like what Tulsi did to her, where she got completely just off her rocker? And it has to be on policy positions. To think about her going into this thing with the knowledge of where and I'm sure their internal polls are worse than what we're seeing in the public. So what does he ask her? You have to wonder. Headlines like this: New York Times Siena poll hammers home the reality that Harris is running out of gas. So going into a debate on Tuesday night with the idea that you're running out of gas is going to be something to deal with. So, for the most recent New York Times Siena national poll of the election, Donald Trump leads Kamala Harris among likely voters, not registered voters, likely voters, by 48-47. This is a terrible place for Harris to be in a nationwide poll. The margins are expected to be so close in so many swing states, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, Georgia, that she is thought to need something more like a 3 percentage point lead in the polls heading into Election Day for her to have a reasonable chance to triumph. So keep that in mind. Maybe this New York Times Siena poll is a blip, but there have been multiple ominous signs in the polling recently for Harris, and I have not been alone in noticing and gesturing at them in column after column. Inexplicably controversial Nate Silver continues to expand Trump's lead. I think he's got Trump up now like 63% to win. Where, again, I think about 6 weeks ago, he had Harris up 1. And Jim Garrity says the most interesting number in this New York Times Siena poll, the one that may tell the tale: do you want major change in this election? Between Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, which candidate represents a major change from Biden? Over 60% said yes, they want major change. That's a staggering number. And then the answer to question 2, only 25% of likely voters said Kamala Harris represents that change. So a lot of what we said in that other article. So that's where we are. That's where we are. That's where we are. So what should Kamala Harris be asked? What could she be asked? Good morning, everybody who's just jumping in. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Bonnie, good morning. Welcome on in. Some Democrats will vote D no matter what. Well, we've talked about that a lot too, yeah. Hello, Bill. How are you? So the guys over at American Greatness, who specifically put this out? Steve Cortez came up with some questions that they'd like to see asked. When did you know about Joe Biden's cognitive issues, and were you always truthful with the American people about his condition? Now, that question's not going to be asked, but that's a fair question. That's a fair question. Especially the second half, were you always truthful, which we know you're not. We know you're most likely never truthful. Again, a very fair question. It's been reported that Biden was threatened with use of the 25th Amendment as leverage to get him to drop out. Can you speak to that issue? And more importantly, can you speak to, this is what I would ask her, can you speak to how you belong on the ballot when you've never ever, when I have as many primary votes as you do, up until when they just installed you at the at the convention. You've publicly boasted about Bidenomics, but Americans hate the economy. Can you describe Bidenomics, and can you describe why it still works, or you think it will work the next 4 years under you when it's failed so miserably the last 4 years under both of you? Do we think that one will be asked? I love this one too. President Trump just did a highly confrontational town hall on CNN as a candidate this cycle. Will you do a similar town hall with someone, let's say Sean Hannity or Laura Ingraham or Tucker Carlson or Jesse Waters or me? Well, of course not. I think that's a fair question. Why do you affect accents in front of different audiences, and what does it say about your authenticity? I like that one as well. That, of course, will never be asked. On fracking, CNN states that you never did change your own personal opinion in 2020, so can you explain when and why did you change to become pro-fracking? You've repeatedly backed race-based reparations. Can you explain why Hispanic, Asian, and white Americans today should pay their black neighbors for racial injustices committed before they were ever born? I would also ask her, can you explain why your home state of where you were the AG of California is a model for the rest of America? Which part? How can you assure the American people that millions of migrants who poured into America will not receive amnesty and citizenship? Well, she can't, and that's what she wants. What would you say to the parents of Lake and Riley? It's a good one, too. Biden's Afghanistan withdrawal. You said you were the last person in the room and that you're comfortable with the decision. Is that still the case? Now, that one really should be asked. And that one's not too far-fetched to think it could be asked, even from ABC, if they talk about foreign policy. Housing affordability has never been worse in America by some metrics, and not since the 2006 housing bubble, according to Goldman Sachs. Why shouldn't Americans blame you for this crisis? I think that's a good one as well. And that's not out of the realm of actually being asked. I don't think that's a bad one either. So, of course, we talked a little bit about it already. But obviously the new Nate Silver continues to go up, 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 and up. Trump now with a 63.8 probability compared to Harris's 36%. The former president is also favored to win every swing state. Silver's current odds give Trump a 64% chance of winning Pennsylvania, 54% chance of winning Michigan, 53% chance of Wisconsin, 77% chance in Arizona. That's the one this is the one that makes me just a little concerned that these numbers are even reasonably correct. Because again, I mean, I haven't checked it in a week, but Kari Lake is getting bombed in Arizona. And a lot of people out there are concerned that if that in fact is true, and she does, it'd be hard to imagine that he could win Arizona that easily. 77% chance of winning. 75 for North Carolina, 68 for Georgia, 61 for Nevada. So that's where Nate Silver is. The Arizona one is the one that makes me raise my eyebrows and think, how much can we even trust Nate Silver's numbers? The new probability total is nearly a 5-point boost for Trump since Thursday when he was at 58.2. That's what I said. It just keeps going up and up and up. What questions do you think they'll ask Trump? Well, we know what they're going to ask Trump, right? They'll ask Trump about January 6th, about the election. Absolutely guaranteed. Because they still ask it on every... They still ask it on literally every Sunday show. And if you haven't seen Tom Cotton, by the way, this past weekend on CNN with Dana Bash, you should watch it, because that's a lesson in not letting the propaganda media get away with their propaganda. He was pretty solid. But they're going to ask Trump about the election. They're going to harp on this for at least 10, 15 minutes probably. Certifying the election, Congress certifying the election, January 6th. Do you commit? You know, it's all of these drama-filled nonsense questions. I mean, the drama on the other side. I saw Bill Kristol, who I think at one point called himself a conservative, which is laughable, reacting to the New York Times Siena poll, saying, the fact that this man has 58% support shows, after everything that's happened. I mean, it's just the drama of these tweets. It's like, dude, stop sniffing glue, man. Like chill out. Just suck it up and deal with it. It's like Mark Cuban. These stupid questions. Dear Trump supporters, when you see that, you should just immediately delete the tweet or block it. I mean, it's just so stupid, makes your hair hurt. Dear Trump supporters, please tell me one thing that Trump's ever invested in. I mean, it's just like the dumbest. I mean, like, could you, like, just put down the Balvenie, man. Relax. They should ask questions and ask each one in turn. Well, I mean, I think that I don't know what the former president's strategy is going to be, but I think he is going to have to work in some time, work in some way to ask her about some positions, why she's flip-flopped on so many things, why she's changed this. A couple other things. Again, none of this necessarily is probably surprising. Harris falling behind among male voters in key states. Oh, I'm shocked by that. You mean Tim Walz and his Richard Simmons energy is not helping her carry men? White men specifically? Oh, I'm just shocked by that. Just shocked. This is in the Hill too, by the way. New polls show Vice President Harris faces a major challenge in winning over male voters. Oh, geez, I wonder why. Your running mate doesn't necessarily give off, well, real strong vibes. If you're a male voter looking for strength in your leaders, given the world we're living in, I'm just shocked that you're just not attached to Tim Walz. And as he comes on the stage looking like he's ready to do like jumper size with Richard Simmons. New poll shows Vice President Harris faces a major challenge in winning over male voters and is losing men by a bigger margin than she's winning women. Think about that. Again, this is in the Hill. These are not exactly conservative outlets that are trying to do what the left does and spin all these articles to make you think. And they're forced to print this stuff, I guess. I don't know. She's losing men by a bigger margin than she's winning women in key states such as Pennsylvania, Nevada, and North Carolina. And as we've said, if Trump wins Georgia, Pennsylvania, North Carolina, it's over. The gender gap between Democrats and Republicans isn't new, but it's becoming especially pronounced in the toss-up race for president. Former President Trump's problems with female voters are so I'm sure you'll get a question on that too. E. Jane Carroll, women voters. I'm sure you'll get something from ABC on that as well. New polls show that Harris has just a bigger problem with male voters in some states. So again, the news this morning keeps piling up, you know, in the backdrop of going into this debate. If you didn't see, by the way, let me just, let's just keep going away. Bum, 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 bum. If you didn't see, and this is just one exchange, but
Dick Cheney was Vice President of the United States for 8 years. He was a senior member of the House.
Now, just think about this for a second. We have RFK Democrats who are now Trump supporters, and we have Dick Cheney Republicans who are now Kamala supporters. This is the world we're living in. And by the way, I'll take that trade any day of the week. You can take Dick Cheney, you can take the Bushes, you can take Mitt Romney, you can take Kinzinger, you can take all of them. I'll take that trade any day of the week. And these people like Dana Bash and others called Dick Cheney, who left office with, I think, about a almost single-digit approval rating, if not close, which his daughter, I think, one-upped them when she lost. Probably the only worse public approval rating than his when he left office was hers. These people called Dick Cheney the most vile things ever. Ever. When he was in office and as they winded down that administration and he left office. And now, this is where we've come. RFK Democrats are now Trump supporters, and Dick Cheney Bush supporters, Mitt Romney supporters are now Kamala voters.
Dick Cheney was Vice President of the United States for 8 years. He was a senior member of the House. He was chief of staff to Gerald Ford. He worked tirelessly to advance Republican policies for a long time. You don't think his endorsement of a Democrat with that kind of pedigree is going to make a difference with
I really don't. I mean,
never Trump voters who weren't sure about Harris?
Well, I mean, some of this is probably that Donald Trump beat his daughter in her last election by 39 points. I think most Americans are going to look at this race and compare the records they have. Again, it's a very unusual race. When you have a president who served in office, who brought good times to America, and you have Kamala Harris, a San Francisco liberal, who has brought to America exactly what you see in San Francisco as well.
The Cheney was Vice President of the United States.
If you haven't seen that, Cotton was great with her throughout the interview. She tried to get by with all kinds of nonsense, and he just wouldn't let her. He just would not let her. He was very, very good. He was very good, and it was a real kind of lesson in, they try to change the words that J.D. Vance said on that whole shooting is a way of life deal. We talked about that. I think I talked about that here last Friday morning. And the fact that they try to make it sound like he said, well, these things are just part of life. Deal with it, which, of course, is not what he said. See what they're talking about over here.
I think that tomorrow is a big night, but I think she'll hit the mark.
And she will hit the ground for the next 4 days after that. Mary Catherine Ham, you always give me the lowdown on what the moms are thinking. So if some of those moms are in that 28% that Megan's describing that are thinking like,
this is what we just talked about. 28 said they need to know more about her. Well, good luck.
I mean, I think, look, people do want more information about her policies because her website even doesn't have that section. Okay, I think that's something that's worth pointing out from Trump, who has given sort of more in-depth policy speeches than she has. She's been given a sprinkling of policies. Now, the moms who are paying attention are largely paying attention because they run their families' budgets. They're looking at things like grocery costs. They're looking at things like day-to-day costs and mortgage costs for them and the possibility of buying new houses. And so I think speaking to those things, the extent to which the reality on the ground runs up against Kamala's rhetoric and Trump forces it to is how he wins those voters over and says, hey, maybe take a look at me. Remember what you're.
Yeah, I actually agree with that. And I think that's what he has to do. That's what we've been talking about. How does he confront her in ways about policy stuff that the moderators are not going to ask? Where does he get his chance, whether it's at the end of his time on statements he's talking about, He's going to have to cleverly, I think, he's going to have to weave in the points he wants to make about her, and then leave it up to her to answer. Or otherwise, I'm telling you, I think it's just going to be a snooze fest. I think she's going to be utterly programmed to a point where, you know, she's going to try to memorize everything she's going to want to say. So Damon says, I have a question for everyone. When did the Democrats decide they could just select somebody instead of getting them elected by the vote? Apparently we live in a totalitarian state. Yeah, and Trump's addressed this multiple times, and we've talked about it. And again, and I think, by the way, doing that is what's leading to right now this whole idea that the steam is gone. I mean, it's not that she's running out of steam. The steam is gone. People now remember, this is why there's going to be some people in the Democrat Party who are going to say, told you. Because there were some in the media that are not way out there on the left who said, we really think this is a good idea. It's not like she has not been a candidate before. It's not like voters have not had a chance to tell us what they think of her as a candidate. She's pulled skim milk 1-2% her whole entire career as a candidate. She's never won a primary vote. What are we doing? And this is the result of that. But again, listen, their job's to get her across the finish line. They'll do anything they have to do that. This is why I think they're going to get her to a point where she's not. I would be surprised if she bombs tomorrow night. That doesn't mean I think she's going to be good. I just think she's not going to be confronted by the moderators. Her responses to I'm sure they already know what the questions are going to be. I think she's going to be very programmed to a point where this thing could really be a snooze fest. I hope I'm wrong. I hope I'm wrong. Talk less and let the moderators pull the old go get Trump thing. Ask him about January 6th. Ask him about this other stuff. Just deal with that. So, all right, that's about all that's caught my eye this morning. And I've just focused really on her and the, obviously the election. I mean, the debate, because the debate tomorrow night. We'll be covering it, by the way. I think the 8 to 9 o'clock hour will be on regular hour for us. We'll do a regular show leading up to it. And then the network, although maybe not. I'm not sure what the network's time covering it for. But if you want to watch us, we'll be on all socials. We'll be on Real America's Voice socials. And we'll be on Rumble, Real America's Voice Rumble. And, of course, all of our socials right here. With open commentary while it's going on. So if you want to actually watch it on TV, you can watch it on Real America's Voice. I believe they'll be simulcasting it like most of the networks will. But if you want commentary while it's happening, then you have to watch us. But you won't see the debate if you watch us. We will not be simulcasting it. We'll be watching it and commenting. So you'll be seeing us, but you won't be seeing the debate. So you got to double screen it if you want to actually see it and you want to hear us, or you can just watch that and then watch us later. All right, let's get to some of your comments, questions. Oh, yes, we are watching debate during the show with you and the boys. Thank you. Well, yeah, just like I said, we'll be live, we'll be commenting, but you won't be able to actually see the debate. You're going to see us. So you got to double screen Rav or whoever you want to, watch it on Rav. They'll be simulcasting it, and then we'll be commenting on it. No one on Rav will be live during it. They're just going to play it. So you'll probably be able to hear it through our stream and see us, but you won't be able to see it. You'll be able to hear it, though. Thanks, Mary. Funny, she crammed 3 days in Pittsburgh for the upcoming test versus 3 years of working under a desk. Oh, good question. Hey, what's the result of the? Anybody know the results of the first odds makers? How did Jerry do? I know he picked the Giants. The Giants, boy, they are in for a long year. Long year. Well, the question more is how did it pass their party? Obviously, I mean, you know, the party that talks about democracy, even though we're not a democracy, we're a constitutional republic. They weren't too interested in their 18 million voters who voted for Joe Biden when they pulled this stunt. Who's asked them what they feel? I don't know. I guess most of them don't care because they just want it, you know, they just have TDS, all of them. Slick picked the Dolphins. Boy, what a day for them. I don't think they covered. I think they were -3.5, although we'll go with whatever the line was when we picked it on the show. But I know they closed at 3.5, and they only won by 3 after the cheetah got arrested on the way to the stadium. And boy, the video of his what they were, I mean, I don't know if that was maybe that was not a simple traffic stop, but man, the police, the video I saw, the police looked like they were over the top for what looked like maybe a possible just infraction of maybe speeding or whatever. But I don't know enough details to comment on it. I've seen a couple of videos. I've heard some comments, but I really got to watch it and see what the story is. Yeah, well, probably. I just said that. I'm sure she has. That's why I think this thing could be a snoozer, because if she does know them, she's just trying to pretty much process and record answers in her head. Is that what it was? 125? Okay, well, see, there you go. So, see, I didn't know the details. That's a little different. I guess we'll have to wait and see. Let's see if there's anything else we want to check in on this morning. Why is it so hard to get to the news stations on this thing? Let's see. Commercial, of course. Oh, here they are talking about it right now.
He said to the police there, look, I love police. I want to be a police officer one day in some capacity, but this wasn't right. And thankfully, he got a ticket for moving violation. That's the extent of it. He was not arrested.
And Miami-Dade police announced that one of the 4 officers involved has been put on administrative leave, as well as that agent you just heard from said they might consider pressing legal action. Dana?
All right, keep us posted.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I mean, again, I don't know the details, but from the video, I mean, they had him in, like, the way that he was face down in the cuffs and what seemed like the force they were using for what looked like a traffic stop did seem like a little strange. So I don't know. Well, I guess we'll have to wait and see what happens there. I mean, 125 though is absurd. I mean, it makes me wonder if that's true, because I don't see how you don't get arrested for 125. Drew Rosenhaus just said he wasn't arrested. How's that possible? I don't care who you are. You're doing 125. You're getting arrested. Let's see here. Anything else we want to see? Anybody spouting nonsense? Oh, okay, come on. Oh, they're all in commercial. All right. They're all in commercial. Yeah, that's nuts. An NFL fine for being late to the game is greater than a traffic fine. Well, that's for sure. Oh, I missed a super chat. Thank you very much. Vermin Ator looks like. Is that right? Is that an A or an O? Ator. Vermin, $25. Today's my birthday. Oh, happy birthday. LFS6B, can have a gift. Thanks. Well, yeah, you can have a gift. You want to send me an email to lfs6b@yahoo.com and I'll send you a shirt. Send us an address. Remind us who you are, that it's your birthday, that you sent a super chat this morning on the morning stream. And if you want to pick a shirt out at livefromstudio6b.com, give us a size and a color, whatever you want, we'll send it out to you. Happy birthday. That's awesome. And thank you for the super chat. Great way to support the show. Bum, bum, bum. All right, let's see. What else is going on? Buzzard 207. See you tonight. Yes, 8 o'clock. We will be there. Okay. All right, folks. That's about it for this morning. That's all we can. Let's see one more time. We want to check. Let's just check. Check the markets. Now that the market is actually open, Dow's up 311. S&P up 48. NASDAQ up 181. So market's off to a good start. Bitcoin up now 1,200 on the day, 55.6. Ethereum up 46, 2% across the board. So things look good this morning. We'll see if the momentum keeps up. That's been kind of one of the things. Kind of these rallies have not had a lot of life in them, but we'll see. Maybe today will be different. So. Let's see, anything else? All right, looks good. All right, folks, thanks for joining me. And I'll see you tonight, 8 p.m. Make sure you hit the like, subscribe, whatever platform you're on. I appreciate you joining me here in the mornings. Hit the thumbs up, hit the like, share, comment. Try to grow the numbers on all the social media channels as we head towards the election, and I appreciate all of you. And I'll see you tonight on Live from Studio 6B, 8 p.m., Real America's Voice. Thanks, everybody.